to Couch Casual, where today we are going to be going over our power rankings for Week 12 of the 2024 NFL season. And without further ado, let's get into these power rankings. So the first group we have is the Jags at 32, the Giants at 31, the Raiders at 30, the Browns at 29, and the Patriots at 28. I think this is like a fair group of like the bottom 5 teams. It's just how you want to rank them. I thought the Patriots deserved the spot above them as they were in a very competitive game with the Rams. And they got the win over the Bears 2 weeks ago, and Drake Mays looked good, and overall this team has shown signs of being a good young team. And I think they've played better than teams like the Browns and the Raiders, Giants, and Jags. The Giants didn't play, so I didn't want to put them down because they didn't get a chance to win. The Jags got blown out by the Lions, so I think they're right now the worst team in football. But it's these 5 teams, I think, the bottom group, and this is how I decided to order them. It was pretty much a toss-up, too, with Browns at 29 and the Raiders at 30, both coming off of relatively blowout losses, Browns to the Saints and Raiders to the Dolphins. Both of those losses, I think, were on the road, so I just gave the Browns the nod over the Raiders, I guess. Next group is the Cowboys at 27, the Titans at 26, the Panthers at 25, the Bears at 24, and the Jets at 23. So how I ordered so at the top, Jets and Bears, they both lost, but they both lost in close games. Bears by 1 point, I think, and I think also the Jets by 1 point. So they were close losses, so I didn't want to knock them down. And they've shown a lot more flashes than the other 3 teams below them. And then when it came to the Panthers, Titans, and Cowboys, Panthers, I know they didn't play, but they're coming off back-to-back wins. I know they got to play the Chiefs this week, so we'll see how that goes. But recently, they've looked pretty good. Titans have honestly impressed me. I know they lost to the Vikings, but they were very competitive in that game. Will Levis is still showing good signs of being a good quarterback. He was a top 40 pick 2 years ago. It's only his second season. And then the Cowboys, they just haven't looked good. I know they've been riddled with injuries. Micah Parsons just got back. They obviously don't have Dak now. And I know they're injured, but it's just not a great team in general. I just didn't want to put them below the Patriots, Browns, Raiders, Giants, or Jags, as they have been injured a lot more than those teams. And if it wasn't for that, if they converted that touchdown when they went for it, like a little early in the game, and if that fumble didn't go against their way, it could have been a more competitive loss to a very good Texans team. So I thought they deserved to at least be above that second group. But they definitely have been disappointing this season. Next group is the Saints at 22, the Dolphins at 21, the Colts at 20, Rams at 19, and the Bucks at 18. So, just like how the Jets and Bears both had very similar losses, the Saints, Dolphins, and Colts, maybe not the Colts, but the other 2 teams had very similar wins. The Saints won an easy game against the 29th ranked Browns. The Dolphins won an easy game against the 30th ranked Raiders, and then the Colts barely beat the 23rd ranked Jets. I don't think none of those wins necessarily deserved movement. They're all pretty similar. So I just decided to leave those 3 teams the same. And then when it came to the other teams, I know the Rams won, and I also know the Bucks didn't play. But with the Rams going down to 19, I think the teams above them just looked better last week. I know Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp had great games, but you barely beat the Patriots. And then I know the Bucks didn't play, but we'll get to this in a little bit. I do have the Falcons above them, who lost to the Broncos, and I didn't want to put the Falcons below the Bucks because the Falcons have beat the Bucks twice this year. So that's why the Bucks got punished a little bit for not playing, but they're still 18. Next, we have the Falcons, as I mentioned, at 17, the Bengals at 16, the Broncos at 15, the Seahawks at 14, and the Cardinals at 13. So as I mentioned, the Falcons coming off of that loss to the Broncos, I moved them down to 17. And again, I just didn't want to put the Bucks above them after losing to the Falcons twice this season. But if they win next week and the Falcons lose, that might change. Bengals at 16. I know it was a good Chargers team, but they haven't just looked great overall this season. Their defense is still not good. They almost came back and won that game. And they still are a good team. Their offense is still great. So I didn't want to. And they lost to a good Chargers team. So I decided to keep them still in that top half. But I think the Cardinals, who didn't play this week, have just looked a lot better. The Seahawks, coming off of a close win to the Niners, have looked a lot better. And the Broncos have looked great this season. Bo Nix potentially has snuck his way into maybe being the Offensive Rookie of the Year favorite. So I gave those two teams, the Seahawks and Broncos, big jumps for their very impressive wins. But the Cardinals didn't play, didn't want to move them too far, and I think they've just looked really good this season. So I kept them at 13. Now we have the Chargers at 12, the Commanders at 11, the Niners at 10, the Texans at 9, the Packers at 8, and the Vikings at 7. So as I mentioned, Chargers coming off of that big win versus the Bengals. I gave them the 12th spot. Commanders, I know it's a very good Eagles team, but it wasn't a very close win. And I think the Niners played better than the Commanders did. So I gave them the spot over the Commanders. It was between them and the Commanders who would get that 10 or 11 spot. I gave the Niners 10. Texans at 9, gave them 2-spot increase over the Niners and Commanders for their very impressive win over the Cowboys, even though it could have been a little closer if certain things didn't go their way. But you've seen now with Mixon, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, the team looks a lot better. And then when it comes to the Vikings and Packers, I know they both won their games, but the Packers barely beat the 24th ranked Bears, and the Vikings barely beat the 26th ranked Titans. And I think the 6 teams above them just played a lot better, or have played a lot better throughout this season. But they are both still in the top 8. And finally, we have the Ravens at 6, the Steelers at 5, the Eagles at 4, the Chiefs at 3, the Bills at 2, and the Lions at 1. Starting off Lions at 1, I think it's obvious they're the best team in football. The only reason I never had them at 1 is because the Chiefs, who started the year at 1, haven't lost, so I didn't feel like it was right to lower them for winning when they were already at 1 and the only undefeated team left. But now that they lost, I think the Lions deserve that number 1 spot. Bills, I gave them the 2 spot over the Chiefs because they just beat the Chiefs. And then when it comes to 4 through 6, obviously Steelers over the Ravens for their win this most recent week. And then the Eagles, coming off a big win versus the Commanders, they've looked great. I think they're clearly the 4th best team in football. And then it was between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and then Pittsburgh with the win. I gave them the 5th spot over the Ravens at the 6th. Some of the bigger risers we had were the Chargers going up 4 spots, the Seahawks and Broncos also going up 4 spots, as well as Pittsburgh. The Titans also went up 6 spots, but it's mainly because everyone below them is just worse. And the biggest fallers, we had the Bengals go down 4 spots for their loss to the Chargers, the Jags going down 5 spots, and then a few teams going down 3, like the Falcons, Bucks, and Ravens. And that will do it for our power rankings for Week 12 of the 2024 NFL season. Let me know your opinions on this list and maybe some of your rankings. Give me your top 5 or top 3 and in the comment section. And also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. And also hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.